Hi everybody, welcome back to my garden. So it is a glorious day here in central Wisconsin. It's one of those warm, humid spring days that kind of gives you a hint of what's to come for the summer. Yesterday we got one of those all-day rains that gardeners dream about, and it was glorious because we got an inch of rain, but it took all day to get that rain. So I'm really happy about that. And while everything in the garden is happy and watered and fed and all that kind of stuff, I thought I'd give you a spring garden tour. Now, before I start with the garden tour, today is May 18th. And this week we are expecting 3 days with temps around 40. And one of those 3 days is actually might dip into the 30s. So can't plant anything out yet. You just never know because it might get colder here. So I will show you what is growing that can take the cold weather. So we're going to go from left to right here, west to east. These two rows with the posts in them are going to be tomatoes. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to do the Florida weave for my tomatoes for trellising because it's just easier than trying to keep the tomatoes in tomato cages. So that's what's going to go in here. In this next row are my potatoes, and as you can see, they're really growing here. We've got some good bunch of potatoes. I'm gonna have so many potatoes, it's just not gonna be funny. So as we go throughout the year, more potatoes, these are Yukon Golds here. As we go throughout the year, I will pull some of the closer ones. Like if you look over here, I'll pull this one out of this group and get some baby potatoes. Maybe this one here. And that way you get some young potatoes, but then again, you can still get the bigger potatoes for the plants that you leave in the ground. So in the next row over are my onions. These onions here are scallions or green onions, and the rest of them are going to be storage onions. They're pretty happy. Even with all the cold weather, they're really growing well. So I'm sure I'm happy about that. In the next row over, we have fennel. Let's see. So they're looking pretty good. Weeds everywhere. Fennel are looking pretty good. And then I have some cilantro. Look at this. It's already going to seed. Boy, that cilantro is so picky. We've been having one of those springs where it's 80 degrees and then it's 50, and then it's 80 degrees and then it's 50. So these are kale here. I've lost a couple plants, but the ones that are here are still doing really good. My violas have bloomed just like overnight. They just went and then they were blooming. It's just so weird. Little bit of winter sowing left. In here is going to be flowers. I planted my cherry bush here. This is a Nanking cherry, and that one can stay there. Then I've got some other berry bushes, and back here I was going to put raspberries. However, did you know that you cannot plant raspberries, any kind of raspberries, within 300 feet of where you plant tomatoes, peppers, and potatoes? So that puts me like in the pond in the back. I can put them in there. So I gotta count off 300 feet and then we'll see where I can plant them. But for now, they can wait in here. So what's gonna go in this space here is watermelons. So there should be plenty of room. I might throw in a zucchini or two. We'll see. We'll see. All right, I've been working on edging the garden, getting rid of all the grass that grows in the fence. This is winter savory. This is chives, and you can see I always let my chives go to flower because the flowers are so beautiful. So down this way, this is all going to be cucumbers, specifically pickles, and then a few eating cucumbers. And then the peas are doing really well. They haven't grown much because it's been so cold, but now they're starting to grow a little bit. I've got more onions over here. These are onions that I grew from seed this year. And these are going to be my spring onions because there's more than one plant in a bunch. So once they just start putting on a little tiny bulb, then I'll pull them out and use them as spring onions. So I thought that would be good for those. These in here are shallots. I started these from bulbs, and they're just starting to come up. My broccoli rabe has flowered, so it's bolted. Done. This broccoli here was my winter sown broccoli. That one's going to flower. Let me get out of your way. This one's going to flower. So far, this one and this one are okay. My other broccoli plants here. So I've got broccoli. When I put them in the ground, they got sun scalded. That's what that is. But the new leaves that are coming up are looking good. And then over here, I've got cauliflower. So I'm surprised those all haven't bolted yet. Now I ended up buying my broccoli and cauliflower plants from a greenhouse. And they said that they were all ready to go in the garden. And obviously they lied to me. Because their idea of ready to go in the garden and my idea are two completely different things. So they weren't acclimated to the sun, obviously. I'm guessing they took them out of their greenhouse and put them outside, and just, that was it. But yeah, they really got sun scalded, but they didn't die. So I don't have really high hopes. It is really hard to grow broccoli and cauliflower here because our springs go from really cold to really hot to really cold to really hot, and the plants get all confused, and then, you know, they bolt. So we'll try to get it in the fall. Yeah, we'll try that in the fall. So on these arched trellises that are going up here, we're going to do pole beans, then we're going to do cantaloupes, and then I'm going to do delicata squash. So that's what's going to go there. So yeah, that should look pretty cool by the end of the summer. Then on this side of the greenhouse, I've got some herbs, perennial herbs, and strawberries, which the strawberries are all flowering like crazy. So, and look, Colleen, my pink flowered strawberries are going. I hope I get babies from those this year, because I would really like to get some babies of those. So these are called Berries Galore, and they're Chef's Jeff everbearing. They are everbearing, but I cannot find the Chef's Jeff's. That's hard to say. Chef's Jeff's plants around here. So my rhubarb is doing okay, not great. It keeps sending up flowers. So I really am just going to let it rest this year because it was moved. So I'm going to let it rest. It had a hard year last year, and then I'll worry about next year. But I have picked the flowers off of it. Over here in my shade garden, This is a work in progress, obviously. But I do have some pretty good plants going here. So in this raised bed, there's radishes in the first row and then lettuces for the rest. Aren't they beautiful? I just love that red lettuce. It's just so pretty. And then in this bed, we've got 2 rows of radishes, lettuce, and then that final row up there is spinach. So this is the beginning of my shade garden. So I'm going to put in 2 more. I have a total of 6 of these frames. And I think for this year, I'm only going to put 2 more in. Now, my old garden used to have raised beds in it. And raised beds have their advantages. They really do. But one of the things I don't like about them is your plants dry out really fast. Once you get to the summer months, especially around here, it is really hard to keep your beds watered. I mean, you can water it a little bit and you think you put all this water on it, and you dig down and you've only watered like that much. It's not even getting to the roots of the plant. So raised beds, while they are really, really nice, I don't know if I'm gonna like this or not, because everything dries out so fast. You know, the advantage is everything warms up faster in the spring, but the disadvantage is that it dries up really fast. So drip irrigation is really the way to go with a raised bed, but I'm not gonna go set that up right now. Sorry, not doing it. So over here, the plants I have ready to go in the garden are my peppers. I have way too many, obviously, I always do. I've got some flowers to go in pots. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful? Yeah, I wish I could keep it like that. And then in here, I've got giant tomato plants, which that's going to be in another video. I am going to grow tomatoes and peppers in the greenhouse this year. So this is my greenhouse growing experiment. I have flowers all over the place. This is my pickles with a really rotten germination, and my marigolds and cosmos, I believe. And then I've got extra tomato plants over here. Lots and lots of petunias. These petunias are getting really long. I don't know why. So a couple plants waiting to go in the garden. Those are climbing plants. More tomatoes. Look at these beautiful petunias. These are called dwarf petunias, and they're not getting nearly as tall as the other ones. So, and then last but not least, my little seed starting experiment. The one on the left has seed starting mix. The one on the right has potting mix. And you can see it makes a huge difference. Huge difference. And then hanging up above, I've got some flower pots hanging up there, waiting to go out. So that's going to be it. It's a really quick tour of how things are doing. Everything looks so good in the garden because of that rain. I mean, I've been watering, but it's not the same as rain. And you'll hear me say that all summer long. So just say, yeah, we know, we know. So there's a lot of things waiting to go out in the greenhouse. I have way more tomato plants and way more pepper plants than I'm going to use. But I'm still going to keep some of them for backup, because you never know when that June hailstorm is going to come and wipe out your whole entire crop. So I will keep those as backup. But boy, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, I think my tomato plants are staging a breakout out of the greenhouse because they're sick and tired of being in those little pots. And I don't blame them. So, but I'll talk about that in another video. So how are your gardens growing? Are you guys getting rain? I know that there are some places that are getting a lot of rain, some places not getting any rain. So I hope you're getting rain, and I hope your spring gardens are starting to get planted. And hopefully this weekend, we can start planting things out in the garden. So until next time, happy gardening, everybody.